Right. So I would like to welcome everybody to this super special Psychreative session today, featuring the one and only Deborah Stewart, who will be speaking to us today about the creative unconscious as a living dialogue with Psyche. So,
Mhm.
Deborah is a Jungian analyst and licensed clinical social worker residing in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. She can be reached at www.deborahcstewart.com. She's a member of the Philadelphia Association of Jungian Analysts, where she co-chairs and teaches in the training seminar. She is an active member of the Interregional Society of Jungian Analysts and participates in other professional organizations. She's co-creator and contributor to this Jungian Life podcast at www.thisjungianlife.com. She has a special interest in trauma and is the author of Encounters with Monsters: The Significance of Non-Human Images of Trauma in the Psyche. A very warm welcome to you, Deborah. We are super honored and excited about this new session. Very, very special session with you. And we would like to, first of all, the floor is yours, and we would love to have a conversation with you about the role of Psyche and our role with Psyche in co-creation.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Um, I am hoping that we will sort of wend our way through some of the ideas that I want to share. And I've invited Rula to start us off with in a conversational mode. If she has a question or a thought or an idea, interrupt as I'm sort of, I hope, providing a kind of a base for us. And then we will all have time to interact and dialogue and so on, because this is a topic about the creative unconscious and working with it that I don't want to just feed your head, as an old song once had it. If that was enough, you'd be doing it and working already with your unconscious through dreams and other kinds of things. So I'm hoping we'll just sort of have a vibe and wend our way through in a way to kind of echo a feeling tone for how we talk with ourselves and our deeper self. Um, you all wouldn't be here if you didn't think that working with the unconscious matters. Clearly, you all already have an interest in that. And it was Jung who deepened and broadened Freud's work, uh, discovering that the unconscious was autonomous and creative. Whereas Freud felt we have to work through the residue of our past difficulties, traumas, and various things. Jung realized it's forward moving and creative. And that's one of the big reasons to work with it, to work with the deeper part of ourselves. Um, I think there are two main things here to pay attention to that working with the unconscious, and we'll get to some of the ways that that can happen. There are so many ways. This is really kind of like all roads lead to Rome. Uh, but what it helps us with is our individuation, becoming whole, uh, interacting with, having dialogue and establishing a relationship with all the different parts of ourselves, new ideas, forms, our shadow selves, all kinds of things. That is how we become whole. Again, if we could do it just by thinking our way through it, we probably have humanity would be in a much better place than it is now. And the other thing that working with the unconscious does is that it expands us, it expands a psychic field, it influences the collective. And I would say that it is analogous to a real parallel with the kind of physiological evolution that we all know we had. We've evolved physiologically from pre-hominids to hominids, and on it goes. And Jung really felt that we develop psychically in much the same way, of having a storehouse of common human experience that he called the collective unconscious. And as each of us develops and becomes more whole, more self-reflective, more individuated, we are growing in a way, we're really growing the world. And I have a dream. This is one of my favorite dreams. It was a dream by a man called Max Zeller, and it's in this book, The Dream, The Vision of the Night by Max Zeller. And this is a man who, after World War II, he was an analyst in California, and he was so disturbed after World War II because of the state of the world, and he had doubts about whether he should and could remain an analyst. You know, he could see only so many people a week. Should he be doing more? Was it useless? Was it still a calling that he could feel had integrity? And so he came to Jung for analysis, and he did what many analysts has done before and since. He completely forgot the significant dream that he meant to tell Jung. So he was going to go home the next day, and he sat in the train. He thought, oh my God, I should have started with it. I never even told it to him. And then he got in touch with Jung, and Jung got right back in touch with him. He said, I got a call from Jung's secretary. She wanted to know if I wanted to see him. Well, of course I wanted to see him. So I went out for the very last time to Kushnak, which is where Jung lived. And this is Max Zeller's dream. A temple of vast dimensions was in the process of being built. As far as I could see, ahead, behind, right, and left, there were incredible numbers of people building on gigantic pillars. I too was building on a pillar. The whole building process was in its very first beginnings, but the foundation was already there. The rest of the building was starting to go up, and I and many others were working on it. Jung said, yeah, you know, that is the temple we all build on. We don't know the people because, believe me, they build in India and China and in Russia and all over the world. That is the new religion, by which Jung did not mean a dogmatic kind of structure. And he felt that it would take some 100+ years in order to be built. And for me, this is the way to substantiate that our dreams, our working with the unconscious, and our becoming individuated matters to the world. That each of us has a pillar. You might paint your pillar purple, and I might try to do some carving on mine. And that's our individuation process. My pillar, your pillow, everybody's pillars. And yet together we can see each other, and together we are building something that in Max Zeller's dream was imaged as a temple. So Max Zeller left Switzerland and his time with Jung and returned to California and remained a psychoanalyst. And I've always loved that dream as a wonderful image of individuation and participation in a community, in a collective, in something greater. Um, what Jung says too is there are things in the psyche which I do not produce, but which produce themselves and have their own life. And I think Max Zeller's dream really illustrates that. Basically, if I were to sum up what Jungian work is all about, it is all about the dialogue between conscious and unconscious. I don't know how many years of training it took me to get to that sort of little nugget of distillatio, but it took me quite a while. It's all about that. And however
Yeah.
we do it is all to the good. Rula, did you want to say something?
It's all wonderful, Deborah. And if we want to consider that dreams are like Psyche's studio, like for example, in the story that you just told us, how can so Psyche is our studio. Um, how can creatives, writers, artists, researchers, how can they learn to collaborate with this nocturnal workspace of the dream world? How can it be the meeting place of conscious and unconscious? So, any tips on how to harness that?
We will, yes, absolutely. I mean, there are a number of ways that we can do this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and there isn't anybody here who hasn't already done it. It is
Mm-hmm.
starting with dreams. Everybody dreams 4 or 5
Yep.
times a night. So if you can wake up and catch a dream, that is
Uh-huh.
one way of having it happen. Um, Another way basically is to play. And I have a little part from Jung. I love reading from his book Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. Basically, everything is in there. It's a page turner if you haven't read it. But one time when Jung was in a crisis that he was afraid he might even be kind of losing his mind. Um, and he did not know what to do with himself. And he remembered that as a child he liked playing with stones. And he said, I recalled I'd built little houses and castles using bottles to form the sides of gates and vaults. So later, he used mud for mortar. And that memory was sparked him to resume doing that, that there's still life in these things. And he could not think of anything else to do. And so one day when he was walking along the lake, he started picking stones out of the gravel on the shore. He started building little villages, houses. He found a pyramid-shaped stone that he used as a special kind of altar. Uh, and all of these things gave him a feeling of satisfaction. And I think if for those of you, most of you who have been a child, and those of you who have had children, think back to those times when you could just play uh,
Mm-hmm.
as a child. And it was serious, but it wasn't solemn. We achieve a kind of in-between space with a dollhouse or train tracks or building forts out in the backyard uh, that has its own life. We don't go out and just plan what we're going to do with the dollhouse. All of a sudden, we decide that the kitchen should be on the second floor and have a toilet in it. And I've watched one of my granddaughters do this. It's a wonderful thing that there are no rules and it's a special space. So we have dreams, we have playing in a way that is not overly constructed. There are some therapeutic modalities. Sand Tray by Dora Talsh, I think, who was a neighbor of Jung's, really inaugurated that, which is a tray that has special sand in it. And people who do this love collecting little objects, special plastic toys, little stones, and all kinds of things. And the point is to have a kind of reverie of move the sand around, see which objects kind of suggest themselves to you to take off the shelf. Do they go in the upper left-hand corner? Do they go right in the middle to access psyche? Art, of course. I think most artists say I didn't plan this. Or,
Yeah.
I was going to make this kind of tree, but then it wanted to turn into a pine tree instead. The kind of journaling and free writing, people have often read something like The Artist's Way. Ira Progroff is another one uh, who gives a lot of instruction, so to speak, on journaling. But my trick is to just keep your hand moving.
Mm-hmm.
That's my trick. And I
Yeah.
a lot of journal entries where I would be writing, I have no idea what to write next. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And then something comes, and the point is not that it's going to be cogent and coherent, but you're trying to connect with a deeper level of yourself. There's another therapeutic practice called family constellations. And this was started by a man named Bert Hellinger. And you can no doubt look it up. It's very interesting work. And my experience with it, which is admittedly limited, is it really illustrates how available the unconscious is. It is right there.
Mm-hmm.
And in this work with family constellations, people come and they might say, well, I'm having difficulty with my teenage stepdaughter. My wife is traveling a lot, various other things. And you select people from the group to represent the stepdaughter, the wife, and maybe some other members of the family. It can be incredibly powerful with a facilitator moving people a little closer, a little further apart. And the people who play the roles of the participants' family, really guided to say what comes up in you authentically, but not from a thinking place. And this can also be translated to working with something like stones on a tabletop. This is Uncle George, and this is my Aunt Agatha, and grandma and my two kids, and just sort of move them around a la a Ouija board. The other thing that helps a lot is working with your hands. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it can be knitting, it can be needlepoint, it can be gardening, it can be wood carving,
Cooking.
it can be cooking.
Yeah.
So those are, this smattering of ways to do this is just to really sort of highlight how close the unconscious is. It's right there. And um, we say in our book, here's my plug, our book on dream work,
Mhm.
Dream Wise. It's on Amazon. Take a look at it if you're interested. But it's like having having a backseat driver. The backseat driver is always there looking around, seeing and noticing what the driver can't, because consciousness is focused. And we hope if you're the driver that you're focused on traffic lights and stop signs and other cars on the road. But the backseat driver is looking around, he's noticing what you do, how you drive. Boy, you keep slamming the brakes on, don't you? So that's how close the unconscious is. And our job is to take an interest, and all of these things I just mentioned are ways of lowering the threshold between ego and the unconscious. We develop a nice, good, strong, flexible, well-adapted, super smart, capable, organized ego, and it tends to think it runs the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
So find your modality of what kind of works in practice, just lowering the threshold. And you may notice I haven't mentioned active imagination, which is Jung's one and only real technique, as it were, because I think it can be hard to jump in there first. So I say, my way is the first thing is dreams. They're right there every single night.
We
Uh,
just need to catch them.
we just need to catch them. And sometimes people have a hard time with that. On our dream work course, Dream School, we have a whole thing about how to cultivate dreams, how to do some dream incubation, how to practice catching dreams if if that comes if that's difficult for you. And there's also a really nice book, um, that a paperback book. I really like this book a lot. And for him, it's dream guidance. Everything's on Amazon. And this is a way to ask for a special dream, but the principles apply to any dream.
Hmm.
So, start with what's available. If it's working with your hands, fine. Um, if it's doing some kind of art, fine. People can draw with their non-dominant hand. It's not about making a good picture, whatever that is, a good picture. So what we've got here is layers, layers and layers. If you imagine for Jung, the structure of the psyche is like a big triangle or a pyramid, and way up at the
Hmm.
top is the ego. Under,
Hmm.
underneath that is the personal unconscious, which is what could be conscious. Maybe it's stuff you never knew. Maybe you forgot about it. Maybe you blocked it out and it went into shadow, but it's close enough to consciousness. And then underneath that, the collective unconscious, the source of the creativity, the
Yeah.
home of the archetypes. And
Mm.
and then under that, I'm leaving out the animus anima because I think it's confusing. But just imagine that there are levels and levels and levels, and the personal unconscious is right next to the collective unconscious. It's all accessible. Uh, and Jung has the corollary because I don't want to leave out our connection to the world and to other people and how important that is. It's not individuation takes us out into the world. It automatically connects us with the world. Um, and this is a diagram that Jung did that, as you can see, goes from individuals down through families and clans, down and down and down to what he calls the central fire, ancestors in
Mm.
general, and then the central fire. But
Hmm.
but here we are. We're right here at this place of like, okay, the unconscious is creative, is the collective unconscious is home of patterns and forms and shapes and colors and movement that we do not create, but to which we can have access and give personal expression. So let's talk. What is this sounding like to you? And what are your questions, thoughts? How do we do this thing?
So, Deborah, you mentioned that the unconscious speaks in many languages. Of course, it's right there. There are many different ways to access it. Dreams, art, keeping your hands moving, sand tray, family constellations, symbolic play. So, Do these different forms reveal different tones or voices of the psyche, or do they all lead to one place? So would sand play, for example, give you a different, open a different door than what your dreams would open?
No, I don't
Hmm.
necessarily think so. And
Uh-huh.
but I like your image of the different doors. I kind of like that. Of you never know, because the psyche, the unconscious, is autonomous.
Uh-huh.
And I think maybe many of you, I know people where there's a life crisis and say, oh, I'm going to ask for a special dream to help me decide this big life question that's coming up. And then you get a dream that's night after night, you get dreams that are completely unrelated. Uh,
Yeah.
and the psyche is autonomous. Psyche might not be all that interested in your life crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I also want to add that it takes some practice. A lot of this connecting with our own deeper layers takes some practice and sticking with it. And in our book, Dreamwise, there's a dream that I had when I was going years ago. We made a geographic move and I wasn't happy there and my job wasn't going well. And I finally decided that, oh, I might as well try therapy. I've tried everything else. Um, I don't know that this is going to give me anything in particular. And the person that I went to, who was not then a Jungian, but she was Jungian oriented, wanted to work with dreams. And I was like, well, I don't know what that's got to do with my situation. I'm new, I'm lonely, my job isn't working, my husband's in a new job and he's distracted and busy and working all hours. And uh, this person wants to work with dreams. But I think something must have clued me in that there was more to it than my conscious mind was acknowledging. And I probably worked with dreams for a good 6 months before I had an experience of a dream that knocked me on my butt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a short dream. I'll read you the dream. I'm riding a great shaggy beast like a woolly mammoth. It's slow and plodding, carrying me toward what I know to be a great canyon. Before me looms a rock doorway, which I will need to pass through to get into the canyon. And standing above the door is a woman dressed in robes. I somehow know I need to ask her permission before entering the canyon. Just then, a man on horseback rides toward the doorway at great speed. He slows only momentarily to acknowledge the guardian of the door. She lifts her hand, signaling him to stop, but he charges forward and rides through the doorway. The woman turns and, with a gesture of her hands, incinerates the man and his horse. I am shocked. And when I had that dream, that was when I got
Mm-hmm.
that there was something else in me or coming through me, or who knows how that works. So I'm wanting to invite you to have an experience with any of these modalities and to keep at it over time, as if you're kind of creating a pathway, if that's what your process is. You
Mm.
may be gifted with a dream or something right at the outset, But remember, it's there. It's like your backseat driver.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing the dream with us, Deborah. Maybe we can take a moment to chat here. And of course, we would also like to invite the audience. And I can also see that Sarah is here, my lovely co-host, co-pilot. Sarah, I'm
Oh,
gonna pin you with us here. And Deborah, so in your book, you Encounters with Monsters, you explore non-human images also in trauma, and for example, the image of fire that you just mentioned right now. And I wanted to ask you, what would you say to people who fear what they might find in their dreams? So, or their inner world, because the dream is an access to the inner world. So, what would you say to them? Like nightmares, fearsome symbols, monsters.
well, I think there's a natural ambivalence in us and in, I want dreams, but of course I want them to be really good dreams. I want them to
Hmm.
be dreams that I like.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
We sleep to rest, so we wouldn't want to wake up feeling distressed about it.
but as in the dream I just read, I mean, I that dream woke me up. uh, I just couldn't believe it. I was so shocked and stunned. Um,
Hmm.
was I sorry I had the dream? No.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think dreams are, really basically here to help us. Psyche is the telos, the direction of psyche is toward individuation. I'm sure every single acorn hits the ground going, Yahoo, I'm going to be an oak tree. That's the trajectory. They're not going to become maple trees or rhododendrons. So there is
Hmm.
a force that wants us to move forward. And oftentimes, nightmare images uh, are images where Psyche has had to kind of up the ante, turn up the volume in order to get your attention. I've been trying to tell you about this now for, quite some time. You didn't get the message. I knocked on the door and then I started pounding on the door and I started kicking the door and I finally had to break the door open. Uh,
Hmm.
and the other reality is if you're having a nightmare, you're going to have the nightmare anyway. The,
Uh-huh.
the problem is not working with a nightmare.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's
So
re
working with nightmares, dreams, other modalities that you mentioned, are there any modalities that we are more naturally attuned to working with?
that is a really great question. Um, I think everyone needs to find what's right for you, whoever all of the yous out there. Experiment and try, um, and see what works for you, and don't make it hard. Don't make it big.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jung playing with all the little stones from Lake Zurich. He talked to himself. Something simple.
Mm-hmm.
Even sitting under a tree and watching the clouds, uh, to just practice having a reverie.
Right. So, and there are certain moments during the day, maybe when getting in this state of reverie is a bit easier, like
Mm-hmm.
a conscious
Yeah.
reverie rather than going to sleep.
Those states in between sleep and waking can also be good in between liminal spaces. Um,
Yeah.
if you can, for me, waking up slowly in the morning sometimes I wake up with a word or a thought, or I remember somebody that, gosh, I hadn't thought about in years. But all of it is developing the ability to just sort of go back and forth. And as I said, practice helps.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the practice is lowering the threshold of consciousness. Oh, how
Mm-hmm.
can I just relax and just kind of let it go? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the word reverie better in a certain sense, an act of imagination, but it just develops it as a range of,
Yeah.
but if you have a dream image, you can sit out in the backyard on a nice day and think about that particular image that arose in your dream and let your mind drift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Deborah. I think I just saw Jana's hand raised. Jana, would you like to jump in?
Oh, thank you, Rula. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for your Jungian Life podcast. And it just reminds me, I was I went to Wellspring Women's with Lisa, and
Ah,
because I love fairy tales,
Fairy
so
tales.
I would love to know what you recommend for dream amplification.
what do I help me
Any
understand your
any
question.
ways or methods to kind of do more with the dream um, outside of journaling?
Okay. I think I get it. Tell me if I'm off track. Um, what comes up for me around your question is that our dreams have a taproot all the time down into mythological collective layers of the unconscious. So that's a great, thank you for that. If you have a dream, for example, in our book, there's a dream where two sisters are in a store, and one of them is supposed to be buying dresses. Both of them are buying dresses, but one sister's taking all the good dresses for herself. And the other sister only gets patchwork, shoddy merchandise to try on. So there's a dream that lends itself a bit to the Cinderella tale. And so you're deepening down into a tale that I think is, in different variations, is worldwide. So if you can relate a dream or a dream image to something more universal through a fairy tale, through a myth, even to a symbol. Another example is, let's say you dream of a bread maker, one of those countertop appliances where you put everything in and it does the whole thing. And you think, I don't have a bread maker. I would never buy one. What is that doing in my dream? But if you can relate it to making bread, the staff of life, and then thinking about it in its positive and negative aspects of, wow, it is so easy to have something that will generate bread right here in my kitchen and fill the house with a wonderful smell. Or, on the other hand, is it outsourcing something that ought to be done with hands and intention and more of a personal process? Uh, s- so, have I answered your question well enough, Jana?
Yes. Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And I think we have a question in the chat box, a question from Alice about the use of the word dialogue, a dialogue between the unconscious and conscious. I usually think of dialogue as words, conversation, verbosity. Dreams are images, symbolic language. What are some examples of the ways the ego can speak to the unconscious without words in its perhaps more chosen language?
I think where this question takes me is basically how do we get out of the ego? How do
Mm-hmm.
we lower the threshold and get out of that left brain, I'm going to ask questions or state an intention of in a reverie state, maybe holding an image in mind, and it could be something very mundane, like, a pot, and just imagine that it's a cauldron and what comes up around that. It's hard to get out of our left-brained state. Jung achieved in active imagination, he really did achieve the ability to actually talk with inner figures. I don't think I've ever met anybody, and I've asked a lot of my Jungian colleagues, have you ever been able to do this? So far, we haven't come across anybody that can do that.
Mm. We also have a comment from Grace. I had horrible nightmares for years.
Mm.
It was only when I began listening to them that I realized that my childhood trauma and wartime experience was driving my waking life. Thankful for Jungian dream therapy. And there's two participants raised their hands. Sarah, I can't tell who they are for some reason.
Cassie, I think, had hers up first.
Cassie.
Thank you. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Rula. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Cassie.
Hi, thank you for such a great talk. Your analogies are so accessible, Deborah. It's really, really helpful.
Oh, I'm
So
glad.
thank you for that. I've written down what I wanted to kind of raise because I'm likely to forget bits. But firstly, I just wanted to comment on Rula saying that Psyche is our studio, which I thought was really interesting to think of us being in Psyche as opposed to Psyche being in us. So I just wanted to comment that was really, really cool. And I was thinking when you talked about Jung and him returning to the stones of his childhood play, and then Rula's question about, are we attuned to a particular modality?
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, in your experience, is it common for those entering midlife to rediscover what captured them in play as children? For me, it was poetry kind of burst onto the scene in my 40s, and I loved playing with words as a child. And for those who maybe don't experience a gap, that may be artists from childhood right through to midlife, do maybe there's not that gap in the modality that they use, but perhaps the way in which they engage. So I'm thinking to move away, maybe if I'm just thinking if you're an artist and you've done that from childhood, that maybe the way you engage in your art changes because of the demands of exterior life, so ideas of success or making a living from it as such. So I'm wondering if there's maybe something similar that happens to those kinds of people that return them to that state of childhood reverie in their particular modality. I hope that all makes sense.
Well, help me out. Let me just go with what comes up for me. And, you can see that this is already sort of an associative and tangential project, even in our dialogue, my dialogue with people here, which rather than, here's the answer to your question. So there's a little bit of sort of meandering and sideways stuff embedded in all this. What comes up for me right away is, of course, Jung was the first psychologist to really take adult development seriously and to prioritize it. So midlife, hopefully we've built our egos and they're well adapted, and we've met some life challenges of getting out in the world in all the myriad ways that we do. And then by midlife, the call is to go back in, to process things that we didn't pay attention to or didn't have the ego strength and personality development to tackle, and they stayed in the background. And oftentimes, I mean, like what you're saying, if I understood you right, something else sort of starts to bubble up of an interest in poetry. So there's another good avenue that accesses the in-between. Sometimes that's a time when, as you know, it did for me, when a lot of unfinished business from early life says, now it's my time. I want to be understood. I want to be integrated. I'm tired of being relegated to shadow. And we're called to that's the time when we've built enough life experience and resilience and just cognitive capacity to dip in. I think I might have sort of circumambulated your question. So
No, that was great. Thank you
okay.
very much.
And then we have Emily.
Hello.
Hi.
And I'm also a Wellspring person and part of Lisa's kind of cohort. And I've loved Jungian psychology and Carl Jung for many years as well, because I've always loved fairy tales all my life. And
Oh,
find that one of my best play spaces, right? And I also have Sandtray as a therapist. I work with that.
mhm.
I love your image of the backseat driver, because how many arguments have been had because of the backseat driver, and yet they have so much insight you could be missing on if you don't listen. You just want the ego to drive, and there's nobody else in the car. Just the ego doesn't even know there's anybody else there.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I wanted to add another modality, as I'm sure, therapy is one of those modalities for bringing, the connection between the unconscious and the conscious. And what I've discovered and fallen in love with is IFS therapy.
Oh, yes.
And in IFS, it's a little different. Like the ego, the ego is just another part. And the main part is the self. And Jung has talked about the self, and the self being having compassion for all the parts, but also all these 8 C's. So this inner self leader, this inner guide, inner compass, inner wellspring is the self. And every one of us has a part of us that's unbroken, undamaged, and can be there for facilitating the conversation among all of our parts, and supporting insight and learning, and like that our parts are very important, and they may be akin to like somebody else's. They may be internalized, energy from an archetype or from somebody else, or your parents' energy inside of you. They could be an inner critic. They could be many, many things, but that we have the ability to have this inner dialogue. And so when you asked, do I know anybody who could talk with parts, and there are people like who are naturals at accessing that, and there's people who struggle very much with this concept of bringing
Yeah.
a part of you, but it's a lot like what you said with family constellation, you know, maybe, and that, you know, you can symbolize it in a figurine and begin or with a rock.
That's totally great. Couple of comments. One, IFS stands for Internal Family Systems, and it's Richard Schwartz, if you're interested. Again, I turn you over to the Oracle of Amazon. Take a look. Very accessible, very readable, and directly borrowed from Jung. His, and what he's done is to operationalize a lot of these concepts. And you know, he's got different parts, the firefighter and the manager and the exile and so on. And that helps to get, it's easy to imagine things like that. And your idea of getting a figurine that is a great idea. And goes to another aspect of all this that Jung called personification. So what I imagine is, you know, here's like, let's take mother. So mother is big and it's vague, and there's Mother Earth and Mother Nature and good mothers and bad mothers and fairy tale mothers, and the list goes on and on. You can't really work well with that. So what we want to do is get an image of what mother image are you wanting to work with, of a figurine that would embody the body type, how tall, made of clay, made of wood, a doll. The list could go on and on, but the right figure or figurine for you, and that you can talk to it. And I do mean literally talk to it, of getting yourself, you know, someplace relatively private. And then you have something you can just hold up and say, well, you know, who are you? You've shown up in my dream, or I keep imagining you like this. And I want to ask you some questions, and what about this, and so on and so forth. And something will arise in you as you keep going. The talking out loud is another great way to access the unconscious and get a concept down to some particularity that you can relate to and that feels right to you. I was once, a long, long time ago, I'm still dear friends with this person. She gave a workshop on Vasilisa. And so that was all great. You know, I was with some other colleagues, and at the end, we made little dolls. She provided us with little sewn sort of figurines and all kinds of fabric and beads and thread and ribbon and you name it. And I was astonished at what my doll wanted to become. I still have it. I was entirely surprised. And that was an exercise in a way of active imagination, but personifying something. Vasilisa, you may remember, was given a little doll by her mother that would jump around in her pocket. If Vasilisa ran into problems, that the little doll would jump around in her pocket and tell her what to do. So all of those things, and thank you very much for that, sparking that in me, is another way in. But you can already see how available this part of you is.
Yeah, beautiful. All these ideas. There's some great comments in the chat too about working with clay and different sort of body movements and all these kinds of things as ways into that space.
My
So,
goodness. Oh, I forgot about the chat.
Yeah. But I think we have Raymond has his hand up. Ray, did you want to ask a question?
It's more of a comment. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. And when you talked about Jung focusing on the second half of life, the adult part of life, just reminds me of my new mantra lately. Grow up, you're acting like an adult.
Oh,
And
that is really great.
you know, our adult pragmatic life it's a necessary psychic reductionism in a certain way, and that if you want to achieve wholeness, you have to transcend that. It's pretty counterintuitive when you say to someone, you need to transcend success in order to become whole, but
Yeah.
not necessarily mean that we regress to childhood, but we regress to a wholeness that includes both our adult life and our childhood life. So I thanks you for that.
Yeah. Rula, help me here with managing the chat. I don't want to take my attention on to the printed page, but I do want to pay attention to the people who have said or asked things.
Sarah, do you see anything new? We have a comment from Susan saying voice dialogue, body soul rhythms, voice work is another creative way to express inner figures. My experience is that the more contained the space, the more safely we can have deeper communion.
Mm.
And
There's also one from Grace about, she says, working with clay helped me. I was astonished the figures I made. Later, I began making tiny figures of whatever was in my dream. A snake or a tiny figure or mask. I put these into an altar I made for my front porch near the threshold. I would have no idea whether they worked or not, but the action of taking something from my dream and making it tangible helped my psyche in some way. I always felt better.
Hmm. And there's the answer to a question that I just scanned about dialogue and words that goes back to what somebody else said, that you just hit something so important of you felt better. It's an experience. It could be a click, that feeling of aha, or it can be something that really just kind of knocks you on your butt. As Wooly, you mentioned earlier, nightmares do. I mean, we wake up and we go, oh my God, whoa, why did I have to have that dream? But your feeling sense, your body will tell you that I felt better. And that's a tradition often with sand play. There's somebody here who does it, so you chime in, but my understanding about sand play and active imagination is it's not for interpretation. It's for the connection, the conversation, the feeling of that those things can provide for us. We know when we've had an experience.
Yeah. Beautiful. There's also what you've sort of touched on a little bit, but there is another question that says, do daydreams count the same as nighttime dreaming?
Sure, anything goes. It all counts.
And we see Vicky, I think you had your hand up.
I was thinking about the work I did in midlife, which I'm thinking of as when I was 50. And now I'm nearing 70 and the work feels much more playful And it feels like I'm going back and finding the creative threads that ran through my life, but that did not get the attention needed because of raising children and having a career and taking care of my husband's career, etc. All the things that pull one away from creativity. And now I feel a sort of much deeper immersion and a willingness to take the time to practice this lowering of the threshold that you're talking about. Yeah, so I just think I'm blessed to have a long life to get to do this. So,
And also it sounds like you've had a lot of practice going back and forth. And so now that deeper part of you says, okay, let's play. Let's just hang out. Let's mess around. That's been one of my watchwords for any of this kind of work, especially writing, to start with the idea that I'm just going to mess around. I'm gonna be like Jung on the shore. I'm just gonna scoop up a bunch of rocks and make a village to let go of outcome. Of here we are. What's going to happen next? Like dreams, ego is not going to do this.
Deborah, I was wondering if you still have more time for questions. I know we just completed the first hour, but I also recall that you needed to be somewhere right after the first hour.
I'm okay. I
All
can
right.
I can stick around and maybe we'll just keep going or change it up. But
Okay, well, we've still got two questions. I can see that Robert and Jana have questions. So, Robert, please go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm no good with computers. I got the time completely wrong, and I've just come in. I got GMT complete. Is there any way for me to replay your talk so I can actually hear it?
It's
Yes,
recorded.
yeah, it's being recorded and we will be uploading it on our YouTube channel. It's called Psychreative. So hopefully by tomorrow it'll be up there.
Okay.
And
Well, where do I look again on the? Could you write it in chat? Where the address that
yes,
I
of
do?
course. Yeah, I'll put the link to the YouTube channel here in the chat box.
Thank you very much.
And Jana, you had a question.
Yes, I have another question. Thank you. I would love to know, I hear all the time holding the tension of opposites. I would love to know, because that feels in so many ways as if by magic. You have any practical ways and tips to actually do that and ideally even get to transcendent?
The idea of the opposites, and I think I'm only just now really kind of starting to get it in a felt way, because Jung talks about holding the tension of the opposites, the opposites, the opposites. But it is a central part of all kinds of Jungian work. And I'll indulge myself in archetypally, creation myths are about the opposites. We have chaos, and then the sun and the earth separate, or the cosmic egg breaks open, and then we get separation. And whenever we get separation, count on it, there will be conflict. Now what do we do? In a way, the opposites is sort of the natural result, the inevitable result of consciousness. So we have opposites of consciousness and unconscious. You and other people, me and other people. All the stuff that goes on between me and me of do I want to do X or Y. I think for me, the biggest clue about the opposites is when I am feeling something. I am feeling conflicted. I am feeling ambivalent. There's ambiguity. I don't know what I want to do. I'm confused. I don't get it. And then there is the work of discriminating the opposites. It is the darndest thing, and it's a great thing to practice. Just today I'm going to resolve a small thing about an email and setting up a meeting between two people. And it absolutely hung me up. And I have like, what are the opposites here? First, I need to know what are the opposites. I know the part of me that is confused, and I just can't figure out what to do about this. And then what is the other part? This. Why is it so hard to schedule a Zoom meeting with two people, for Pete's sake? That there's something there that I'm not sure where it's going. But to let those two things keep talking to one another and holding them in mind, maybe making some notes to myself until something else comes up. And guess what came up? An email from somebody else altogether about something else altogether. So it's sort of like, that's it. So pay attention to when you have those feelings, especially in interpersonal relationships. Other people can drive us crazy, or at least they can drive me crazy. And then start saying, okay, what's really going on here? How do I define those two ends of this? And not give in. What Jung says is don't give in to either one. If either one collapses, then you have not solved the problem, because what we're looking for is the unthought third thing that you wouldn't have thought of that gives you the aha, that he called the transcendent function, when consciousness and the unconscious are finally aligned. So it is like the creation myth of see if you can separate the earth and the sky, crack the egg open, and have the patience to sit with it, because it can be hard to tolerate. We like certainty. We like to make the decisions. I like my ducks in a row.
Thank you, Deborah. I see we still have two more questions. I guess these will be the last questions for now for this session. Please feel free to contact Deborah. Her contact information, her website is on the Psychreative page also. So we can start with Anna and then Jill.
Hello, everybody. I think I have a more broader question. Let me know if it makes sense right now. But what came to my mind is how would Jung and how it would be good for us to deal with the collective shadow that is becoming increasingly more transparent right now with all the interesting information that we have access to and also we are bombarded with.
Yeah.
I'm just rereading the Red Book and I kind of see how Jung dealt with it, but yeah, I mean, that seems like an important question.
I don't, in a way, to some extent, we deal with ourselves. in the context of collective shadow. I don't, it's way too much for any of us, to try to influence more than that. And I go back to this, this diagram, see if I can see where it is of, as we go down the layers from individuals, families, clans, nations, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see how deep and it gets once we're really thinking about collective shadow. I think we feel it. That's the main reason I lifted up the diagram. That just as we feel it when things are wrong in our family or a community, for example, is struck with something like a natural disaster that our town was flooded and people are in trouble. We also feel it when our nation, the world, it affects us when things are not feeling right, feeling united, feeling chopped up and dismembered and chaotic. I go back over and over again. This is just what I try to do. I go back to the Max Zeller dream. I get back to work building my pillar. And some of that work is other people. Whatever we can do out there in the world as part of my pillar. And what is doing my litmus test for this is it doing me any good? Is it doing the world any good? If it's not doing anybody any good, I try to drop it. So there are things on the news, for example, I cannot do anything about that. But then there are other things that are small, but the intention of being connected, and just having some love for this. Some of you may have been on our podcast about a year and a half ago about the Christiana Morgan Tower. So that's my external world project. There's a food bank here that is open 24/7. And guess what the rules are? You come and you take what you need, and if you have extra, you just bring it and put it in there. And it's my favorite food bank concept. So we do what we can. We try our best to manage the tensions and the feelings that come up. This is the world we live in.
Yeah. Thank you, Deborah. And Jill.
Okay, I think I got it. Hi, Deborah, and everybody here.
Hi.
Thanks for doing this for us. I think my question kind of came along that's on the same line. I was wondering if you could just speak a little bit to when you start having a series of dreams that seem bigger than just you and that do seem to carry a more substantial weight to them, and they kind of they are speaking to things that are going on in the world, but they're very stark and strong. And so I'm wondering how, I know you can say just, sit with it. And I kind of got the concept of maybe just being a witness to
Yep.
the circumstances in a dream like that and hold it so that you're talking about when we're in spaces together like this, or gathering in groups of people that's just holding that kind of concept, even if you can't know for sure in the dream if it was about you personally. I know there's parts that probably are, but when it just seems bigger than you.
And we do have dreams like that. Jung had this vision that was manifested by World War I. He was riding on a train. I hope I'm getting this right, but it's in Memories, Dreams, Reflections. And he had this vision of mountains and so on, of just these rivers of blood and so on, and a voice saying, "This is real and it will be so." And it shook him up terribly. And sometimes people have dreams where it feels like, whoa, this wasn't just my dream. So we are permeable, and we can take in some of the issues from the wider collective. And what do we do about that? We do our best to work with the dream and pay attention to it. Jung was hardly in a position to really know for sure, for example, that, how it was going to manifest. Sometimes we don't know that. But we take on our share of the suffering in the world. It's disturbing, and I like your idea about witnessing. I saw that, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm willing to relate to it and acknowledge it. And
Thank
let
you
it
so much. Thank you, Deborah.
be.
And thank you for this wonderful time, for such an engaging and insightful conversation today. Um, it felt not only like a dialogue between you and us, but it felt like a dialogue with Psyche itself. And I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be thinking about it for the next few days, and all the lovely tools that you offered. Your way of meeting the unconscious with curiosity, with courage, creativity, and grace is very inspiring. So thank you so much. It has been a great honor. We learned so much from you today, as always. And we'd love to have you with us again. And I also want to thank everyone for being here. Psychreative, the session is not.
This is really so great. Thank you. I see
Thank you
all the
so
hearts
much.
going up. That's really lovely. And yeah, okay. To be continued individually and collectively. One last word, don't forget to have fun with some of this stuff.
Absolutely. We can't get creative without enjoying the process. We don't only need to trust it, but we also need to enjoy it, play, have some
Right.
fun.
It is my favorite F word, so go to it. All right, everybody. Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much, Deborah. Thank you so much. And for those of you who would like to stick around for the next half hour, we have an open mic. If anyone would like to share some poetry, paintings, any other creative works, figments of your unconscious, we are here. We'll just be taking a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back for the poetry readings or other creative showcasing, whatever you would like to show us. So thank you. We'll take 5 minutes as of now.
Hi, everyone. We'll be starting back in just a few minutes.
Just like to take the opportunity to say to both Hedy and Raymond that I particularly liked your poems in the last issue of Indelible. Thank you very much. Absolutely great.
Very nice. It was a beautiful issue.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Hedy, you're muted. Oh.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So, the lineup is Hedy, Ray, Gottfried. Is there anyone else who would like to read? Robert, would you like to read your poem?
Oh.
You're muted. We
I got
can't
it.
hear you.
I got it. I got it.
All
Actually,
right.
I had a question that I was too late. I'd like to read that if I may.
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Oh, fabulous.
And maybe before we start, I would just like to mention that our first online poetry course in January will start January 6th, and it is called Beyond Meaning, Poetry with the Unconscious, something about poetry and the unconscious. So this is going to be a great course. And we are right now offering an early bird fee. So if you would like to register in advance, the early bird fee is up until Monday. And I left the code in the chat box. So it's LABRC 20 for anybody who is interested in enrolling in the course. Okay. Right, Sarah, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
All right.
And I'll be helping out. I'll keep an eye on the chat box if anybody decides to read. If we have some time afterwards, then I will keep an eye and make sure we don't miss them.
All right.
So we've got 4 readers so far. Hedy, Ray, Gottfried, and Robert.
All right. And I guess we have about 5 minutes for each person.
Yeah.
And, Hedy, if you want to start us
Okay.
off.
Okay, thank you. Can I share screen because I'll read a couple of ekphrastic poems.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me see. Okay, these are from my ekphrastic collection. And this is the first painting titled In the Distance by Andrea Couch. She's from Michigan, a contemporary artist. So if you want to take a look a little bit at that complicated painting, it inspired me the following poem. Isn't the cat the only sensible being in that painting? The woman's Medusa hair stands up on her head in ringlets, though not electrified by the sudden backyard's lightning. Her men battle their way furiously through bending wheat. Golden braids sway in waves, eager for the kiss of the scythe. Though not electrified by the sudden backyard's lightning, she kneads, stretches and folds the dough like an automaton. Golden braids sway in waves, eager for the kiss of the scythe, while they fulfill their wish to be the Sisyphus of the field. The cat's calls remain unheard as he shrieks at the sight of the felled tree. She kneads, stretches and folds the dough like an automaton. In defiance, she will only use packaged flour from the store, while they fulfill their wish to be the Sisyphus of the field. The smell coming out of the pyre like
oven seals the sacrifice. In defiance, she will only use packaged flour from the store. They live in parallel universes, rubbing against each other's bubble. The smell coming out of the pyre-like oven seals the sacrifice. Or is everyone about to explode in spontaneous combustion? Only the cat hears the unuttered words. Will anyone listen to his warnings? And the next one is a very short one. It's a prose poem inspired by a very interesting artwork called Icon by Remedios Varo, the Spanish-Mexican artist. And this is the closed triptych. It's inspired by medieval triptychs. And this is the way it looks closed with the roots and ribbons and the flowering. And then when it opens up, this is the world of dreams and maybe the unconscious. So it inspired me. I saw it in Argentina in the museum. It's very small, but it's impacting. So this is the poem. Or didn't you know it's in that opening and closing that we exist? At first sight, you might think we're these uprooted trees facing each other on that arched door, without touching, suspended, in stasis, our dreams unraveling a gilded ribbon around the branches, reaching out deep into our exposed verdigris roots. Notice the double doorknob? It only opens when we turn the latch from the inside at the same time, at the same rhythm. At first sight, that engraved wooden door might make you think of a tombstone for an old couple sleeping in separate rooms. When we both turn the latch, it's in that opening and closing that we exist, spinning on wheels under the triple moon crescent. For an instant, you might hear the fluttering of wings as we rise through spiraling staircases to heights never reached in our dreams. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Hedy.
Thank you.
Felt like a perfect extension of the talk that we just, then the Q&A and everything. All right. Ray, I believe you're next.
I'm constantly amazed by the poetry that's offered, and I'll just back up Gottfried's comment and say I very much enjoyed Gottfried's work and Hedy's work and others as well. I don't usually like to say too much about a poem in advance. It's kind of cheating. But I wrote this poem yesterday, and I just want to say a few things about it. It's a poem about a beloved father, but it's not really personal to me and my own father. I lost a beloved friend from college friend they had known for many years, a couple of years ago, and they just had memorial service for him. And his daughter, who was a poet, spoke at the memorial service, and she read a poem by Leopardi that was one of Jim's favorite poems. And her talk, her reminiscence was how important her father has been in her life. And it really moved me, not having a father that made that kind of an impression upon me. It really moved me. But the inspiration for the poem came for the fact that 3 years later, she's still in a state of grief over the loss of her father. And yet there was so much richness in her talk that I just felt that she shouldn't have so much grief. So I wrote this for Melissa, for the daughter, and sent it out to her yesterday. And I'm going to do something, because I wish I had my poetry online that I could share screen like Hedy. I'm going to do something Robert Bly always used to do at his readings. He would read a short poem, but he would read it twice. So I'm going to read it to you twice. The title is Poem Without a Final Line. When a beloved father dies, nothing can replace those two eyes, or his smile, or his warm embrace, nor can his passing now erase all of the words he spoke to me, all of the world he made me see. A beloved father will not leave and can never be forgot. For what now endures in the heart is an eternal work of art, a poem in couplets with rhyme, two souls together for all time, poem without a final line. Now I'll just read it again, a little faster this time. Poem without a final line. When a beloved father dies, nothing can replace those two eyes, or his smile, or his warm embrace, nor can his passing now erase all of the words he spoke to me, all of the world he made me see. A beloved father will not leave and can never be forgot, for what now endures in the heart is an eternal work of art, a poem in couplets with rhyme, two souls together for all time, poem without a final line. Thank you.
So touching, Ray. Thank you. Beautiful. Gottfried.
This is Phoenix. Sometimes there is grace, and it is then as if an angel, sensed palpably and yet unseen, is passing through the space that I am in. A messianic moment, presence of the holy. 1. Has there ever been an instance when to your fingertips you've had the gift divine to touch, to feel, and to caress the underside of a bird's wing? A multitude of snow-white, tiniest down feathers pleasuring your skin? 2. Some 6,000 years ago, in the bleak wilds of what today is northern Scandinavia, overcast dark clouds hanging low in the wind-torn sky, almost touching the earth below, a woman who's died in childbirth is being lowered into her grave. And with her, by her side, the unborn baby is laid to rest forever, bedded onto the all-so-soft downside of a swan's huge and snow-white wing. 3. Last year in a dream I had 2 large screens with tribal motifs in green and black are being laid out, as onto a third one serving as a kind of headboard, a great bird wing is being spread out. I found your wing the other day in the sand beyond the surf, on the beach just where it curves. Did you leave it there for me to find? The feathery downside up, oh so soft, soft as my beloved's hand, holding my face, caressing it. When in my dream I ask about the wing and the bird to whom it once belonged, it is unknown, I'm being told. You have to find that out for yourself. As I touch the feathered wing, my fingers come to know its softness in a different sense, hitherto unknown. You are communicating a whole otherworldly softness, angelic to my touch. You invited me to know you in the holy sense, that knowing which the Bible speaks of. I can see now why the Holy Ghost is imagined as a winged bird, hovering as light upon the waters of the night. Having held your wing, you have gifted to me some of your secrets, have shared with me your treasures, both that soft caress as well as the miracle of soaring flight, of gliding through the air. Although the mystery has only deepened, thank you for thus sharing it with me. 4. Now, just days ago, in another dream that speaks unspoken of the capacity to love, which actually, of course, is just the choice of a return to love, one of my hands grows into a rose. 5. Dare I accept this gift divine as a promise, prophecy, so I may soar on wings of love, just as in heaven, so on earth, my face softly being cradled in the palm of her loving hand. As we melt into each other, our hearts as one grows wings, and we spread them wide to soar, reaching way beyond the stars and ever, ever higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Gottfried. Beautiful. Such wonderful images.
Thank you very much. Bless you. Thank you.
Great. Robert.
Yes. Now, as well as missing the meeting, I pressed the wrong button and my screen's gone completely blank. But I think you can hear me.
We can.
Okay. Now, it's just questions I wanted to ask the fantastic speaker, so I'm going to email this to us. One is just a tutor from art school said to me, love the uncertainty, the state of being uncertain. Love that. Now, a project we did at art school, set by my tutor, was working with polarities, which are between two well-established polarities. The relationship between different polarities is ambiguous, but if you can establish them as opposites, it gives you work to meaningfully create, basically. The last one is Stanislavski's protege, who said, Rectangle, he who perceives subconsciously and expresses subconsciously, that is genius. Now, just a little bit to say, I've had a confluence of frustration and in which I'm presently submerged. I just was wondering of the speaker, just like synchronicity, does this have some Jungian significance? Now, just to finish, because there's a little bit of time, I can sing you a song I wrote back in '76. It's called the Big Nose Song. It goes like this. It's 9 verses, but I just do the first 2. I believe in abandon, go berserk so it's real. What it is that I'm doing, working up for a thrill, going steady with big nose. I just want to express what's been sat on and hidden, made my life such a mess. Get it out in the open, don't be frightened or scared. Everything that's inside us, 'cause we're human, is shared. Big Nose doesn't get on in life, Big Nose doesn't get rich. Big Nose keeps its identity, that's the dream it won't ditch. Big Nose tries to feel everything, Big Nose doesn't succeed. Everything isn't anything, 'cause I'm only a weed. We are all poor and struggling, if we'd only be true. Don't resist, don't be powerful, this concerns me and you. That's it.
Oh. Thank you, Robert. Very fun.
Fantastic.
Oh.
Thanks for that blind date, I guess.
Thank you. And I see Cassie, you said you'd like to share something?
Oh, thank you. I wasn't sure I'd give you time, but yeah, just a couple of short ones if that's okay. This first poem is called Softly. A mountain of ash where shoulders once grew. Tread softly, my love. Tomorrow hibernates in your flaming heels. Borrow the white of my sleeping eyes. I promise you ovals and olives. Caterpillars nesting in gourds. A tree lets loose its hair. Mouths the overflow of night. We dream of dreams. Snuff the light of stars. And I'll just read a second one that was written in the same evening, so I don't know if they're connected in some way. It's called Smoke. Voices from the dark speak the language of brick. House me in the ruins of breath. The mirror smells of smoke. Wakes shadows from the cracks in my knuckles. Night's whispers scream. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cassie.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Do we have anyone else who feels like stepping up to the mic?
Sarah, how about you?
I can share if there's nobody else. Oh yeah, Vicky, please.
I've never done this before.
Well, it's a very welcoming group, so.
Mykonos. Cool winds and a hot sun, white caps and mountainous waves, cruise ships and fishing boats, and a rollicking blue boat ride to Delos, sherds everywhere. A tiny white archaeological museum, an early Trojan horse, Pithos, warriors depicted within the horse through square portholes. A masterpiece with scenes of marauders killing children as their mothers plead. Only the men have swords. A sweat bee on my tired body, a blue dress and a white sweater to match the architecture of Mykonos. I have one more. Is that okay?
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. Yoga in the morning. Sitting in bed, legs in Baddha Konasana, thinking of Mary and her flexible body. I wonder if she will meet me on the other side. Leaving my bed, I stand slightly bent, stretching my arms to the ceiling. My body lengthens to greet the day. Strength training at the gym, Adho Mukha Shavasana, whole body stretches between sets. Balasana with my forehead on the floor, breathing in the present. New tightness from a recent surgery, aching joints from a cancer drug, facing my mortality one pose at a time. Okay.
Thank you, Vicky.
Beautiful. Okay.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. That was weird. Okay. Hard
Beautiful.
to do.
Wonderful. Great. Yeah, I'll share
Sarah.
a little. I'll share a little something. I was thinking, I actually, as we were leading up to this, I thought I would share a little piece that I didn't get to at the end of, or during the Eco Poetics conference. I had done a really deep dive into the image of the wolf, and wolf came to me in a dream, and then I sort of went on this journey with wolf through waking life and followed them through mythology, and eventually I started working a little bit with just what would come up for me, just free writing, and then working with watercolor. So I'll share a little piece of the writing from that presentation, and then what came to me at the end. I hesitate to call it a poem, but maybe it's a poem in progress. So, but with Wolf, I just wanted to share that some of what I learned from Wolf, which was we must grow used to the dark, become more comfortable with uncertainty. Perhaps in these tenuous times, that's one of the few things we can be certain of. We need to remove our projections on the wolf on the other. We shine a light of understanding, knowing that we so hate and what we so hate and fear out there, we need to come to terms with in ourselves. The wolf perhaps understands this more than most, demonized and blamed, made the villain in many tale, and yet they persist. They live as they are meant to, intricately connected to the world around them, a part of and co-creator of their ecosystem. And I'll just share this image. You can see here the writing in the mandala, and it was just sort of free writing. And then I did this watercolor that matched the colors. And then the words that came were communion as a practice in grief and empathy, as a place to hold space for the other and me and in earth, as a space to go deep, to join together, to speak the unspoken, feel the unfelt, to give attention to all that is cast aside. Communion is a bringing together, nothing left out. All are welcome here. Grief, loneliness, despair. See it, feel it, know it all. Give it voice, give them thought, embody.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
So beautiful, Sarah, and everybody else. This has been wonderful. And I would also like to encourage everyone to submit to our new issue of Indelible. Actually, let me see if I can. This is our photo. If anyone would like to take the group photo with them. And I would also, let me just have a look at Indelible Lit. So it's www.indeliblelit.com. And the theme of our next issue, issue 10, is fermentation. So fermentation of ideas, fermentation of a phase, fermentation of food. It's your call. So whatever the word fermentation means to you, please feel free to express it through poetry, through prose, and by prose we mean both fiction and nonfiction, photography, visual art. So we welcome all your creative submissions on that. And yeah, our latest issue just came out last month, and the theme of that one was awakening. And you could also see it if you click on the link that I just sent. You would see the cover of the issue. And with that, yes, Gottfried?
Sorry, please. The deadline for number 10.
I think it's like January 15 or
Yeah.
something like that. Let me have a look. Let me just double check. So fermentation issue 10. The deadline is, yeah, January 16th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gottfried. And I would, yesterday during our dream poetry course by the wonderful poet, hypnotherapist, dream coach, Leah Larwood, she asked us to write about the early minutes of waking up. So basically the hypnopompic state. So we had to write an ode to the hypnopompic state. And Sarah, is it okay if I read it? I think it should take less than a minute. It's a really tiny one. It's my very first draft of this poem. So it's a brave act. Anyway, I will read it to you, and if maybe I can share it. It's yeah. Can you see it?
It's working on it.
It's called, you can see it?
Yeah.
There it is.
All right. So, Ode to the First Minutes of Waking. When I awake, I remember that I am alive in many places at once, in the scattered rooms of my mind, in the soft afterglow of dreams, in the quiet ache of returning to myself. When I wake, I ask the morning its old questions. Is there anything to fear today? What small joy waits for me? What must be planned, protected, prepared? I count the days towards rest, or from it, as though the weekend were a small private moon. I revolve around without noticing. The waking state is an enantiodromia, a lit darkness, a bright shadowland where meanings overlap, dreams cling to the edges of reason, and several realities breathe in the same place. Here in this trembling borderland, ideas quarrel and reconcile. Old thoughts loosen, and something new begins its quiet shaping. To wake is a bravery, a soft rebellion against sleep, a slow rising from one world into another, a crawl from the deep waters of night into the thin, shimmering veil of dawn. I never really enjoy waking up, but anyway, we wrote an ode to it yesterday in the session.
Wonderful.
Certainly your poem is profoundly enjoyable.
Thank you, Gottfried. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here today. We look forward to seeing you again next month. So we will be announcing when our next Psychreative is going to be. It's going to be before Christmas for sure. And we do have a book launch event. It's free and it's online next week. So on the 25th, next Tuesday. And it's a launch for our book, Shakespeare Reimagined. So it's all about modern adaptations of Shakespeare in drama, in poetry, in so many different artistic disciplines. So we hope to see you there. You can find the registration information on our website. And yes, we look forward to seeing you all again. Have a wonderful evening or day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.